Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the entire global financial system has simply stopped working, that hospitals can't access patient records, that planes have been grounded, that power plants have gone into emergency mode, and that billions of devices around the planet are displaying a blue screen with an error message that no one expected to see. All of this actually happened in July 2024, and it wasn't because of a cyber attack coordinated by Russian or Chinese hackers. It wasn't an alien invasion like in Hollywood movies, and it definitely wasn't the beginning of the zombie apocalypse we so fear in television series. It was something much more frightening and much more human. A software update error, a flaw so simple that it could have been avoided with some basic testing, but which turned into the biggest technological blackout in modern history, affecting more than 8 million Windows devices worldwide and causing losses estimated at billions of dollars in just the first few hours of the incident. The company responsible for this digital catastrophe is called CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity giant that should protect systems around the world, but ended up becoming the protagonist of the biggest technological nightmare we have ever witnessed. The most ironic thing is that the failure occurred in a security software program, the kind that should be among the most tested and reliable on the market, because we are talking about systems that protect critical infrastructure, banks, hospitals, airports, power plants, and even military systems. But on the morning of that fateful day, an automatic update to CrowdStrike's Falcon sensor was distributed to millions of computers simultaneously. Within this update was a faulty configuration file that caused a fatal error in the Windows kernel, causing systems to enter an infinite loop of restarts, that famous blue screen of death that we have all seen at some point in our lives, but now multiplied millions of times around the planet. Worst of all, this failure could not be corrected remotely. Each affected computer needed to be manually restarted in safe mode. The problematic file needed to be manually deleted, and then the system could be restarted normally. Imagine doing that on 8 million computers spread across the globe, some in remote locations, others in critical systems that cannot be easily shut down, and you begin to understand the magnitude of the disaster we are talking about. First reports began to emerge in Australia, where companies woke up to find that their systems simply no longer worked. Banks couldn't process transactions, supermarkets couldn't accept card payments, hospitals had to cancel elective surgeries because they couldn't access electronic medical record systems. And while Australia tried to understand what was happening, the problem spread like wildfire following the sunrise around the globe. Europe was next to be hit. Airports in London, Paris, Berlin, and Amsterdam completely collapsed. Thousands of flights were cancelled. Passengers were stuck in terminals without any information about when they could travel. Check-in systems stopped working. Air traffic control had to operate manually, and the situation only worsened with each passing minute because it wasn't just one sector affected. It was literally everything that depended on Windows computers with CrowdStrike software installed. By the time the problem reached the United States, chaos was already complete. The stock exchange had trouble opening. Television networks had their broadcasts interrupted. Emergency systems malfunctioned, and even some government facilities were affected. Creating concerns about national security. But here's the part that should really keep us up at night. This flaw wasn't caused by a cybercrime genius who spent years planning the perfect attack. It wasn't the result of a complex vulnerability requiring advanced programming knowledge to exploit. It was simply human error, combined with inadequate testing processes and the interconnected nature of our modern technological infrastructure. CrowdStrike released an update without properly testing it on different system configurations, without considering all possible interactions with other software, without having a robust rollback plan in case something went wrong, and without realizing that a flaw in their software could have catastrophic global consequences. Because we live in a world where technology is so intertwined in every aspect of our lives that a single flaw can create an uncontrollable domino effect. And the scariest thing is that this isn't a problem unique to CrowdStrike. Virtually all technology companies face similar challenges. The pressure to release updates quickly, the increasing complexity of systems, the difficulty of testing all possible hardware and software combinations, and the growing tendency to rely on automatic updates that are distributed. for millions of devices without human intervention. Let's talk about the real consequences of this incident, because the numbers are absolutely terrifying. Airlines canceled more than 5,000 flights on the first day alone. Hospitals had to postpone important medical procedures. Banking systems became inaccessible, leaving millions of people without access to their money. Companies of all sizes lost days of productivity, and the direct and indirect costs of this event are estimated at tens of billions of dollars. But the impact goes far beyond the financial, because this incident exposed a fundamental vulnerability in the way we built our modern civilization. We put all our eggs in the same technological basket. We created single points of failure that can bring down entire systems. And we blindly trusted private companies to keep critical infrastructure running without having adequate contingency plans when things inevitably go wrong. And believe me, things always go wrong. It's just a matter of when, not if. Now, imagine a scenario where this failure wasn't accidental. Imagine that instead of an innocent human error, we had a malicious actor who deliberately inserted harmful code into a software update. Imagine that instead of causing blue screens that can be manually corrected, the flaw had permanently corrupted data or created backdoors in critical security systems. Imagine that instead of affecting only Windows computers, the problem had spread. 2 embedded systems in nuclear power plants, power grids, water treatment systems, traffic lights, and all the other systems that keep our civilization running. And you begin to understand that the CrowdStrike incident was just a small glimpse of what could really happen if we don't fundamentally change the way we think about technological security and system resilience. Because the inconvenient truth is that our society is built on a surprisingly fragile technological foundation, and we are constantly one mistake away from a catastrophe that could make the CrowdStrike blackout seem like a minor inconvenience. Cybersecurity experts have been warning about these risks for decades, but their voices are often ignored in favor of speed, convenience, and short-term profits. Investing in adequate security is expensive. Thorough testing takes time. Maintaining redundant systems reduces efficiency, and creating robust quality control processes diminishes agility. So, companies make choices that prioritize the rapid release of new features over the reliability of existing systems. Choices that assume automated testing is sufficient even when we know it isn't. Choices that treat security as a cost to be minimized rather than an essential investment. And we all pay the price when these choices lead to catastrophic failures, like the one we saw in July 2024. But here's what's even more concerning. Even after this massive incident, even after all the chaos and billions in losses, how many companies have actually fundamentally changed their processes? How many organizations have revised their single-vendor reliance strategies? How many governments have implemented stricter regulations to ensure critical infrastructure has adequate redundancy? The answer is disheartening, because the truth is, we tend to have short memories when it comes to technological disasters. We wait until it happens again, and then we're surprised as if it were impossible to predict. The question isn't whether we'll have another incident of this magnitude. The question is when, and whether we'll be better prepared next time. Because systems are becoming more complex, more interconnected, more dependent on automatic updates, and less comprehensible, even to the experts who design them. We're entering an era where artificial intelligence is being integrated into critical systems, where algorithms make decisions that affect millions of lives, where the Internet of Things connects billions of devices that often have questionable security, and where cloud computing means that critical data and services are concentrated in a few data centers operated by a handful of giant companies. Each of these trends increases our efficiency and capabilities, but also dramatically increases our vulnerability to catastrophic failures. Because when everything is connected, a failure anywhere can propagate everywhere. And when we rely on automated systems that operate at speeds beyond human comprehension, we may not have time to react before the damage is irreversible. So what can we do about this? As individuals, and as a society, we need to start asking difficult questions about our technological dependence. We need to demand transparency from companies about how they test and implement critical software updates. We need to invest in redundancy, even if it seems inefficient in the short term. We need to train more people in cybersecurity and system resilience. We need to create regulations that hold companies accountable when their failures cause widespread damage. And most importantly, we need to develop a culture that values reliability and security as much as speed and innovation. Because the alternative is to keep rolling the dice and hope that the next big failure isn't the one that finally breaks our technological civilization irreparably. And if you think that's an exaggeration, remember that a single faulty configuration file from CrowdStrike caused the biggest technological blackout in history. Now imagine what would happen if multiple systems failed simultaneously. If the failure affected not only computers, but also the physical infrastructure that keeps our cities running. If we couldn't fix it manually because the systems are too autonomous, and you'll realize we're not talking about science fiction. We're talking about a very possible future. If we don't learn the right lessons from this incident, if this story made you rethink how many times a day you depend on technology without questioning it, if it made you realize how fragile our digital infrastructure really is, leave a comment below telling us which system you think would be most catastrophic if it completely failed. Would it be the internet, the power grid, banking systems, or perhaps something we don't normally think about? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we continue exploring these technological threats that most people prefer to ignore. Leave a like if you want more content that makes you question our blind dependence on modern technology. Because the more people understand these risks, the greater the chance we'll actually do something to protect ourselves before it's too late. And since you've made it this far and clearly have an interest in discovering truths that most people ignore, click now on the video that's appearing on your screen to continue this journey of fascinating and disturbing discoveries that will completely change your perspective on the world around us.